All right, so today we're going to tackle a feeling I think we all know really well. It's that constant nagging sense that you're just not quite ready to start that thing you really want to do.
I mean, you've totally been here before, right? You're standing on the edge of something new. Maybe it's learning a language. Maybe it's starting a huge project. You've done all the research, you've bought the books, you've watched the tutorials, but you're just waiting. Waiting for some kind of internal signal, this magical moment of clarity that's supposed to tell you, okay, now you can begin. Okay, so I'm just going to rip the Band-Aid off right now. Here's the diagnosis. That feeling, it is never coming. In fact, the more time you spend just preparing without actually doing anything, the further away you might actually be from getting good at it.
So, what exactly is this trap we fall into? Well, it's something called the readiness fiction. And trust me, understanding this is the absolute first step to breaking free.
And look, first things first, this isn't some kind of character flaw. It's actually a defense mechanism. Your brain literally invents the idea of readiness to protect you from something very specific, the discomfort of failing, of being wrong, especially in front of other people. So this isn't a judgment on you, not at all. It's a diagnosis of the method you're using. And that method, well, it all comes down to a pretty fundamental misunderstanding of how our brains are actually biologically wired to learn a new skill.
See, most of us think we learn through exposure. The idea that if we just watch enough YouTube tutorials or read enough books, the skill will just kind of absorb into us. But biologically, that's almost completely false. That's the myth. The reality is your brain doesn't learn by passively consuming stuff. It learns through active correction. It's those uncomfortable, messy attempts that actually flip the switch and start the real learning process.
This loop right here, this is where all the magic happens. Real learning, I'm talking about the kind that builds brand new neural pathways, neuroplasticity. It only gets triggered when you do this. You attempt something you can't do yet. You fail. You get feedback on why you failed, and then you adjust your approach. That's it. Everything else, your brain basically just files it away under general maintenance. It doesn't count. So, what's the big danger of just learning through exposure? Well, it creates this sneaky thing researchers call the illusion of knowing. You feel like you know a topic because it seems familiar. But recognizing a concept and actually being able to apply it or produce it, those are two completely different things happening in your brain. You're mistaking familiarity for ability. And let me tell you, familiarity is just the shadow of real competence. So how do we break out of this? How do we actually start learning for real? Well, for that we can turn to the work of Josh Waitzkin. And this guy is incredible, a world-renowned chess prodigy, a martial arts champion. He has spent his life decoding the architecture of how we acquire skills. And he has a method. His method is basically built on two core and kind of counterintuitive principles. First, you've got chunking. That just means isolating and mastering the smallest, most critical sub-skills. And second, there's forced output, which is exactly what it sounds like. You start producing work way before you feel prepared.
Okay, let's use an analogy to make this really clear. Imagine you're learning to play the guitar. What do most people do? They try to learn a whole song, right from the start, and they play it badly. They stumble through the chords, they mess up the timing, and all they're really doing is reinforcing mistakes and building a really, really weak foundation. The Waitzkin method says, no, do the exact opposite. Instead of trying to learn the whole song, you isolate one tiny little component, like just the transition from a G chord to a C chord, and you practice only that over and over and over until it's completely automatic. See what you're doing? You're building a solid foundation, one perfect brick at a time. And this leads us perfectly to that second principle, which is captured in this amazing quote. The accumulation of input before output is not preparation, it is postponement dressed as discipline. I mean, think about that. All that time we spend just consuming information before we even try to produce something, yeah, it feels like we're being disciplined and preparing, but really, it's just a very sophisticated way to procrastinate. So what does forcing output actually mean in practice? It means you have to speak that broken, clumsy sentence in the new language you're learning. It means you have to write that messy, imperfect line of code that probably won't even run at first. You have to generate errors early and often, because those errors, those are the raw material your brain actually needs to learn. It flags the information as survival critical. Okay, this brings us to the final and honestly the most powerful reframe in this whole explainer. This is all about changing your entire relationship with difficulty itself. Seriously,
I want you to let this one sink in. That feeling of discomfort, of awkwardness, of being a total beginner. You know, the exact feeling you've been avoiding this whole time, that is not an obstacle to your progress. That discomfort is the progress. It's the biological signal that tells you learning is actually happening.
So, here's the bottom line. The people who learn the fastest, they're not the most talented. They're not the most gifted. They are the ones who are the most willing to be wrong, to look foolish, early, and in public. They're the ones willing to fail, get that feedback, and adjust over and over again right from the very beginning.
And so that leaves us with one final question for you. Deep down, you already know what it is you've been postponing while you wait to feel ready. So what is the specific, small, uncomfortable thing you've been avoiding? Name it, isolate it, and then go practice it until that gap closes. Because that feeling of readiness, it's not something you wait for. It's something you build, one messy, uncomfortable attempt at a time.